Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Good morning everyone. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 21st August 2021. Okay, let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important articles. Let us take overview of all these articles first, one by one, and then we will discuss them in detail. Yes, for mains related articles, on page number 6, editorial page, two important articles related to our mains examination. First, the fall of Kabul, the future of regional geopolitics. Again, the context is withdrawal of US forces from Afghanistan and the recent developments that are happening in Afghanistan, and along with that, in future, how the regional geopolitics in that region is going to unfold, which are the different stakeholders in that. All these aspects are discussed, and in the end the different options available for India are also mentioned. Okay, so some experts view, again from time to time we are taking input here. There will be some repetition, but yes, some new aspects are also covered. So GS2 paper, international relations. Yes, next article, United States not in favor of free trade agreement. Recently our Commerce Minister has said that, explicitly said that US is not in favor of signing such bilateral free trade agreement with India. The context of this particular article is this news, and the article is analyzing the impact of such, let's say, intentions by the US, and it is also talking about what should be the way forward for India in future to boost exports and bilateral trade with other countries. So this is important from GS3 paper, economy part, international trade, as well as GS2 paper, international relations. Yes, next, China formally passes 3-child policy into law. Okay, so on world page, this particular article, it is talking about the China has formally introduced 3-child policy. In 2016 it announced 2-child policy, which largely failed. Now it is announcing 3-child policy along with some incentives to have the larger families by the couples. Okay, so we will find some facts mentioned in this article. This is important from GS1 paper, society part, population aspect, as well as GS2 paper, international relations, and essay paper. So we can understand that how China's demographic dividend is changing and related to, or we can say in relation to India, comparatively India, and how China is through such kind of policy trying to increase the fertility rate and through that the younger population for its workforce. Okay, so all these aspects we have to understand here from GS1 and GS2 paper as well as essay paper. Now specifically prelims related developments, Geological Survey of India lists geotourism sites in northeast to visit after unlocked period. Okay, such one list is made by Geological Survey of India, and it is going to promote such geotourism in northeastern Indian states. Okay, which are, so not all the list that is important here, but we have to understand that northeastern India also has such kind of geological sites which can promote geotourism. So this word, this unique term is important for Northeast India, regional development, all these aspects. You can use this in your mains examination also. Okay, so from geography part as well as art and culture part we can take input here. Zycov D, first vaccine for those above 12 years gets nod. Okay, so our regulatory agency has given nod to this DNA based Zycov D vaccine, which is first Indian vaccine for those about 12 years and above, including adults. Okay, so this is good development from COVID-19 related perspective. We will take follow up here. Then Johnson & Johnson seeks approval for COVID-19 vaccine trials on adolescents. So this is development, again COVID-19 related development. Already Johnson & Johnson jab has received emergency use approval in India, but it is talking about the trials for adolescents. Okay, so uh, in future we'll see whether our regulatory agency will give such approval for clinical trials. And finally, there was one article on page number 6 editorial. It talks about the interreligious convergence and marriages, all these state laws. Okay, so instead of discussing that article, you should be aware about how the fundamental rights of different people are affected when there is interreligious marriages are happening. Okay, so we'll briefly discuss that aspect because UPC asked some question in prelims examination in 2019. From that aspect also we have to take input here. Yes, first article, fall of Kabul. Yes, the future of regional geopolitics. Yes, so the context of this article, it is talking about the recent developments that are happening in Afghanistan, and because of that the kind of power vacuum that has been created in Afghanistan or that particular region of Asia. So what are the different, let's say, prospects for different countries, different stakeholders in future to fill up that vacuum? What is happening and what may happen in future? These all aspects are discussed here. First of all, a regional power vacuum in Eurasian heartland. Okay, so heartland and rimland is actually geographical concept. Okay, so it was used like Eurasia was considered at that time as most powerful region, at that time earlier USSR, and the surrounding boundary countries to the USSR that created the heartland, and beyond that there was rimland. Okay, so heartland rimland theory are very famous in geography as an optional subject, but we will not go into detail. So the Arab countries or some of the Central Asian countries and this Afghanistan, we will call it as Eurasian heartland. So it is talking about a regional power vacuum that is created. So Taliban controlled Afghanistan. At present there is no formal government formation, and therefore there is no bilateral or multilateral talks with this happening. Okay, yes, Macinda's theory of heartland and rimland is there in geography optional subject. Okay, so yes, that is fine because we will not go into detail, that is optional subject, right. So Taliban control Afghanistan has created some kind of avenues for all other stakeholders to fill up that power vacuum that is created. Okay, so which is this power vacuum? First of all, it is advantageous to China. So how it is advantageous to China? Because China can promote its economic and strategic interest. Use these words always in your IR section in your answers. Economic interest, strategic interest. Okay, so what are economic interest here? It is, you can say, BRI. It wants to promote BRI in that region. Belt and Road Initiative, the infrastructure projects. So all this is important for China. Then strategic aspect, yes, surely China has already invested in Iran and promoting good relations with Iran. Now it wants to have good relations with Afghanistan as it is also the neighbor of China. Along with that, it wants to have good relation because there is Xinjiang province bordering Afghanistan. It does not want to have spillover effect of terrorist activities, extremism in its own land, and for that purpose also it needs to have good relations, and that's why China is more interested here. Recently Chinese government also hosted Taliban leaders and there are open talks with Taliban leaders. So in future surely this is going to be the advantages for China. Second argument, we should understand the bigger challenge for India though would be near certain increase in terrorism and extremism. Surely this is going to increase, especially in Jammu and Kashmir region. We are expecting such increase in extremism, the spillover effect from Taliban. Why? Because we have similar kind of experience during 1990s when Taliban gained control in Afghanistan after withdrawal of erstwhile USSR from its lands. So there was increase in extremist activities in Jammu and Kashmir region. Okay, so we can expect such kind of developments again in India. Second thing, that yes, there will be some kind of selective approach by the Taliban. Already it is hinted some kind of power axis is being created. So that power axis will say that China, Russia, Pakistan, and the fourth one will say that here now Taliban control Afghanistan. This kind of power axis is being created, and surely it is going to have more say in Afghanistan, and in future we can expect that Iran also join this. Can you see here that all of these five are having some kind of anti-US attitude, anti-US approach, and to some extent it is going to hurt India, because in recent times India has shifted to, let's say, a good relations with what we can say our US. Defense relations with US has increased. Overall, let's say, in strategic relations has been also increased, and for that purpose these countries may have some policies against India also in future. Okay, so in this manner we should understand the probable power axis that may be created in this regional geopolitics aspect. Now, the return of Taliban to Kabul has effectively led India's mission Central Asia to the rest. I will give you background here. Central Asia is very important for India's energy security, and for that purpose we wanted to have some kind of access to Central Asia, and Pakistan was not the, let's say, direct giving access through its land, and therefore we bypassed Pakistan through Iran, and we were developing this Chabahar port, and through Iran we were entering Afghanistan, and then through Afghanistan to Central Asia. This is how we wanted to have access to Central Asia, but with the entering of Taliban in Afghanistan, we may expect that the trade route may shift from Iran to Pakistan now. Okay, so access of these Central Asian nations may shift to Pakistan for, we can say, access to the Indian Ocean region. So there is Gwadar port, Karachi port is there from Pakistan. The trade may increase there rather than through Iran, that Chabahar port. Okay. Yes. So how it is going to prove a threat to India's interest in Central Asia, just now we have understood. Now, what could be the potential implications for India's foreign policy, its strategic choices and behavior? So implications for India. First thing, we should understand that the Taliban has gained control in Afghanistan, and because of that what we will understand here is that India's focus will shift towards maritime boundary. Okay, so yes, we can understand that a very small land boundary window is available with the Afghanistan on the northern side, and therefore will not have that much focus, in India's strategic interest in the Indian Ocean region are more, and therefore our foreign policy will try to focus on these aspects. The second aspect, we should understand that in future the focus should be also on strengthening good relations with our neighbors. We do not want any neighbor to, let's say, antagonize, and we do not want that neighbor to go to seek help from China Already China's presence in our neighborhood has increased in last 1 decade, and therefore we do not want that to happen further. We need to improve our relations with all the neighbors. Okay, so when we talk about neighbors, we talk about the Myanmar, we want to improve the relations with Sri Lanka, then Bangladesh, then Nepal. Okay, and the third aspect, another important neighbor here, specifically we are talking about the Pakistan. So even if we are not able to have good relations or improve the relations with Pakistan, at least we need to maintain the status quo. So that now maintaining status quo is favorable for both India as well as Pakistan, because Pakistan is also following up the developments in Afghanistan, another neighbor of the Pakistan on other side, and therefore Pakistan would not want to have any kind of involvement, let's say, or violence or disturbance on the peace on the other side of the border, or we can say that in India or border along the India. So in this aspect, India should also maintain the status quo with Pakistan or try to improve the relations at best. Okay, so in this manner, the potential implications in near future in these areas will be there, and the strategic choices also. What kind of question? In reference to developments happening in Afghanistan, potential implications for India's foreign policy and its strategic choices. So we have to discuss these potential implications. Discuss the potential implications for India's strategic choices. Fine. So in this manner you can discuss this particular article. Now, reboot to reset. Yes, this context of this article, recently our Commerce Minister explicitly said that US is no longer interested in securing bilateral free trade agreement with India. Okay, so this is a setback. We can say that already many such trade negotiations were going on with US, but during the earlier presidentialship of Trump, right now, due to change in the leadership, maybe the US is seeking a different kind of approach here. Now the government will have to seek to work on market access issues on both sides. Okay, so yes, both US and India has to work on the market access. First of all, we can talk about the tariff barriers. Okay, so for this purpose, there will be negotiations, and we need to reduce the tariff barriers. We need to also understand that there is India's trade surplus. India's trade surplus with US, and there are problems related to tariff. At the same time, there are some concerns related to export subsidies that are given to in India. Export subsidies that are given in India, and the concerns related to standards. So both countries have to work on these three fronts. Okay, so common standards, especially related to quality standards, we are talking here. Quality standards. In these three aspects, the concerns are raised by US regarding India's goods here. Now the trade target of $500 billion has been set by the US President with India. However, tools for achieving are no longer clear. Earlier in 2019, the US President at that time had removed India from or cancelled India's status under Generalized System of Preferences, GSP. Okay, under this, the tariff exemptions are given to different countries by US, and this is some kind of setback. Already the trade negotiations were going on, but this is to some extent harmful, and now we wanted this status back through the bilateral free trade agreement, but now we can see that this is not going to happen in near future. So in analysis, what we should understand that there is opportunity for boosting India's exports. Why? Because the Western countries are seeking, or we can say the increase in demand in the Western countries, the economic recovery is happening at faster rate due to vaccination coverage, high level of vaccination coverage. The economies are recovering, and therefore they want to have the appropriate supply chains, and for that purpose many countries want to replace China in supply chains, global supply chains, and this is opportunity for India. So India should take this opportunity so as to boost its export. In previous lectures we discussed how exports is very important engine of growth. Okay, so in this manner we should analyze this aspect, and there are other countries also, like there is UK, Australia, with which the free trade agreement negotiations are still going on, and the government should work on these let's say bilateral fronts with UK and Australia. Even if the US is not willing, the government can work with these countries so as to sign such FTA, free trade agreements. Okay, so in way forward you can write down this. Second thing we can mention here is that there is need of commitment, stability and clarity in trade policies of the government. Okay, so obviously Western countries, they will focus on whatever the export subsidies, whether they are in line with the WTO norms or the norms which are there in their countries. We can say protection to intellectual property rights, at the same time the quality standards of the products, and all these aspects in the policy, trade policy should be addressed here. At the same time, the commitment, stability and clarity in this trade policy will further enhance confidence among these countries to sign such bilateral free trade agreements. Fine. So this is how we have to take input here. Economy GS3 part and GS2 paper IR section. Yes, China formally passes 3-child policy into law. Now this is important. We always compare India with China in terms of population. India is going to surpass China in terms of population in near future. Now, due to changes in this population policies of China, in future we may expect that the India overtaking China in terms of population number may delay. Okay, so what is this policy? China's legislature formally amended the country's family planning rules to allow couples to have 3 children, also announcing number of policy measures aimed at boosting declining birth rates. So in recent census 2020, it has been seen that the birth rate and the fertility rate has gone down, and the couples are not opting for more than 1 child, and because of that the amount of dependent population has increased in last 1 decade from 5.44% to 18.7% in China. Okay, 5.44% to 18.70%. In India, this dependent population, the population aged above 60 years and above, so that is only 6% or 6 to 7%. Okay, so this is how we need to compare in the factual manner. This data is important for essay paper also. Yes. Now in 2016, China had introduced 2-child policy, but it largely failed to boost the birth rates, and now it has allowed to have 3-child policy or more than 2 children. So in this manner the government or authorities are also going to take supportive measures including finances, taxes, insurance, education, housing and employment to reduce family's burden as well as cost of raising and educating children. For example, recently many such measures were taken by Chinese government authorities to reduce the amount of spending that is required for education purpose of the child. Okay, so education sector is going to be considered as non-profit organizations, non-profit sector, and therefore it will reduce the cost of education. It will reduce the cost of education. So such kind of measures are being taken, and we need to also understand that in India demographic dividend is increasing. Demographic dividend, we can say that the large population part of the country is in the working age population, and we need to reap these benefits. Through this policy, China is also trying to further, we can say that, increase its demographic dividend. Already it is having huge demographic dividend. Since 1990s it is reaping that benefit of demographic dividend, and it wants to further increase that through such policy measures. Okay, so GS1 paper, society part, population, important aspect. Essay paper, we can use this data. At the same time, GS2 paper, international relations. Fine. Okay. Now moving on. Geological Survey of India lists geotourism sites in northeast India to visit after unlock. So many northeastern states in September are going to unlock after a reduced number of infections, number of cases for COVID-19, and now Geological Survey has identified certain geological sites across these states for promotion of geotourism, as some states in region prepare to unlock from September. So geotourism concept, it is important. Whenever we are talking about geotourism, some of the sites, geological sites are located. For example, in this photo you can see site in Unakoti district of Tripura that has numerous rock cut sculptures and temples. This is also important from art and culture aspect. Whenever the question is there for northeast, so art and culture, you can give the example of rock cut sculptures and temples, or such kind of geological sites are there. Geo heritage site and geotourism, use these your answers. Whenever we are talking about the regional development aspect, also for northeast India, geotourism aspect is important. Okay, you need not to go into details of which are these sites. 32 approved sites are there, so we need not to remember all of them, but yes, of these, of the 12 sites, 3 are located in the Meghalaya, 2 in Assam and Tripura, 1 each in Arunachal, Manipur, Mizoram and Nagaland and Sikkim. Okay, so total 32 approved in the country, 12 are located in the northeast. Fine. Okay. Now moving on to next article. ZyCoV-D first vaccine for those above 12 years get approval. Okay, this is important development for COVID-19 vaccines. Drug Controller General of India has granted emergency approval to ZyCoV-D, a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Ahmedabad-based Zydus Cadila Group company, making first vaccine in India that can be administered to adults as well as those 12 years and above. So for children also it is going to be administered. It is also the only DNA based vaccine in the world that can be administered without a needle. Okay, without a needle. So it is going to minimize the chances of reactions. This is also important development unique to this vaccine. Remember this factual information. The vaccine has been developed in partnership with Department of Biotechnology under Mission COVID Suraksha. Mission COVID Suraksha is related to vaccine development support by the government with the private companies. Okay, so you need to remember this for prelims examination. This 3-dose vaccine once administered produces spike protein in the SARS-CoV-2 virus and elicits the immune responses. Okay, so we know that spike protein is responsible for attachment of these viruses and reproduction. So this spike protein is produced because of this vaccine, and it will provide the immune system in the body. Fine. Now the another important development in the same field, Johnson and Johnson seeks approval for COVID-19 vaccine trials on adolescents. So this Johnson and Johnson vaccine is seeking the permission for vaccine trials on adolescents aged between 12 to 17 years in India. Okay. So previously in August, it has the Johnson and Johnson single dose COVID-19 vaccine had been granted emergency use approval. Okay. So this vaccine demonstrated 85% of efficacy against the severe COVID-19 disease in its phase 3 trials. Okay, one of the very much efficient, especially being used largely in Western countries, this Johnson and Johnson vaccine, US as well as European Union countries. Fine. Okay. At present, this is approved, but how it is going to be imported in India, how it is going to be administered, it is not finalized yet. Okay. So these are important developments related to, we can say, COVID-19. Now look at this question. There was one article on editorial page. There is one editorial related to interreligious marriages, interfaith marriages, interreligious marriages, we can say. Okay. And the rights of these people. So some of the laws in different states, they talk about, let's say, anti-conversion law in the name of marriages and these problems that are happening. So how these people from interfaith marriages, they are facing the problem from the community, right? So we have to understand that rights of these people, which are the rights of these people that are being affected. But before that, look at this question that is asked in 2019 prelims examination. Which article of the Constitution of India safeguards one's right to marry the person of one's choice? Okay, Article 19, Article 20, Article 25, Article 29. So we know that Article 19 talks about 6 freedoms that are given: freedom to speech and expression, or freedom of assembly and association, and all these things are given. This is, you can say that, right to life and personal liberty. Then it is, we can say that, right to freedom of conscience, right? So religion related rights are there. Then it is rights of, we can say, minorities. Now appropriate answer to this question. So this article talks about the rights of these people who are marrying to the person of their own choice. Interfaith marriages, basically it protects, or we can say that, the fundamental right of marrying a person of his or her own choice. This is included in this particular right. Article 21 of Indian Constitution, personal liberty. It is part of personal liberty. Okay, many a times students get confused. At that time also, many we can say that students they were not able to write correct answer. They were confused between Article 19 and 21. So you can see in this editorial, it talks about how High Court and Supreme Court has from time to time said that marrying a person of his own choice, it is part of fundamental right under Article 21. In this manner, we should take input from editorial also for prelims examination. Okay, so this is how this article or this MCQ can be solved. Our answer should be B here. Fine. Okay. Now there was one doubt asked by one of the student in the comment box, and he was talking about how there is inflation in food products or food grains when there is enough amount of food grains are produced last year with good monsoon. Yes, so in this question you should understand that when the food grains are produced, there is one cycle that is followed, post harvest mechanism is there, and food grains are to be transported, right? So that transportation cost, now you know that recently there is increase in fuel cost, petrol and diesel, and because of this the transportation cost increases. Automatically we can see that the increase in the food grain cost, and subsequently if the food is processed on those food grains, or we can say that fruits and vegetables, that also increases. One factor. The other factor you can say the structural issues in marketing. Okay, so in marketing the food grains are, we can say, hoarding of food grains happens by the traders, and this we can say that artificially increases prices of food products. We have seen this during the lockdown last year. During the lockdown, many such traders, we can say, hoarded the essential food grains and the supply of food products, and that because of that artificial increase in the price happened. Okay, so such structural issues are also responsible for increase in the prices of food grains and food products. I hope so this is clear to you now. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.